All right, good Saturday evening, everybody. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandajis here with your Atlantic tropical update, and we're still dealing with Sam, still a major hurricane at this hour. The good news is still not near any land, and it's sailing off to the north into the open North Atlantic and eventually weakening. We've also had Victor. Victor was a tropical storm. Now it has weakened to a tropical depression. This also is a fish storm. Today is October 2nd, 2021. And in terms of the hurricane frequency, the overall climatology of the hurricane season, June 1st to November 30th, we're past the peak. That was around September 10th. But I want you to take note of where we are right now, October 2nd. There is a secondary peak that comes our way in the middle of October. So we'll see if that happens here. It's still an active part of the season, and it really doesn't drop off until we get past Halloween, and really all of November is much, much quieter until the season wraps up on November 30th. So here's a look on infrared satellite of Sam, 125-mile-an-hour Category 3 major hurricane. There's Bermuda. It passed safely to the east of the island. They did have some winds. They were under a tropical storm warning for a little while, but certainly dodged a bullet here. And it is moving north pretty quickly at 17 miles per hour. Its pressure has been steadily rising, and its wind field overall is starting to expand, which is very, very interesting. Right now, the tropical storm force winds extend out about 200 miles from the center. But what's fascinating is that as it gains latitude and as it undergoes an extratropical transition, the wind field expands. The strongest winds are found well outside of the center, and it's forecast to have those winds, tropical storm force, extend out 500 miles from the center as it moves farther to the north. Now, in terms of our strongest storm standings this year, we've had 4 major hurricanes: Ida, Sam, Larry, and Grace. Ida obviously made landfall in Louisiana, 150-mile-an-hour winds, Cat 4. Lowest pressure, but it's tied right now with Sam. Sam peaked twice with winds of 150 miles an hour. It underwent rapid weakening and then strengthened again in the last couple days to 150, and that's also when it had its lowest pressure at 934 millibars. We've had Larry and Grace that maxed out as Category 3, but all 4 were major hurricanes. All right, there's the loop of that satellite imagery. Notice that it's starting to get stretched out as it's getting pulled to the north, getting more elongated. It doesn't really have that hurricane-type presence on the satellite imagery as it once did. Earlier, it had its eye, and that eye is filling on in and warming and cooling, as it moves off to the north. Still under warm waters, but eventually it's going to be moving over colder waters, and it's going to undergo a extratropical transition and lose a lot of those tropical characteristics. On the water vapor imagery here, dry air all around it for the entire duration of this thing's lifetime. It didn't really pull any dry air in, didn't really weaken all that much, but it's getting pulled to the north. And as the models have been onto this, so like the last 10 days showing that northerly turn, see that trough dipping on in over the northeast and eastern portions of Canada, and that is pulling that storm to the north. You could see that flow off towards St. John's and Newfoundland and just pulling the storm apart and eventually elongating its wind field. The track on this, again, well away from any land, which is great news, but still staying a Category 2 hurricane before going extratropical by Tuesday, and that's also when that wind field is expected to get 500 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds 39 miles an hour or greater. Forecast model trends here, pretty good consensus. It's going in that direction, not going to be impacting any land. Right now, it's still located over warm waters. Anything that's shaded in orange or anything shaded at all on this map is water temperatures that are at least 80 degrees or warmer. Why 80? Well, 80 is that temperature we need for tropical development, for it to extract that heat energy, that latent heat from the water, and use it as energy to develop and strengthen and organize. Once it gets north of there, which it will within the next 24 to 36 hours, it will start to lose its energy source, its fuel source, and start to weaken. Here's also a look at the sea surface temperatures all around the system. Right around 80, especially off to the north there, so it's starting to cool things down. Also, ocean heat content. That warm water doesn't extend down to a depth as you get to this higher latitude here, and really the ocean heat content drops off significantly just within the next 12 to 18 hours as it heads north. Something interesting here is you can see the scar on the ocean as this system, as Sam, extracted heat energy from the ocean. That ocean heat content here right along its track is much, much lower. There's also a similar scar just off to the northeast of there. That was Larry's track, and in fact the two tracks intersected here just southeast of Bermuda yesterday. So very interesting there. You can see the extraction of that heat from the ocean waters, and we could see it on the imagery there. Tropical Depression Victor, this has been a kind of a non-event. Not really impressive at all. There's the Cabo Verde Islands. There's the coast of Africa. Well out into the Atlantic. The forecast track doesn't really have it doing much, becoming a remnant low as we get to Monday afternoon, and not a problem for anybody. All right, the Atlantic Basin tropical system names. We've got one left. That's Wanda. We're not going over the Greek alphabet anymore. We do have a supplemental list of names, 21 names, that will be used if, in fact, we need to use Wanda and then need more names. Now that we're in October, the climatology shifts a little bit. We're no longer looking at the main development region with African easterly waves coming off the coast of Africa, hitting that patch of ocean in the middle part of the Atlantic and really starting to develop. It's still possible. It's still very warm, very conducive there. But climatology points to the Western Caribbean and also the southwestern portions of the Atlantic showing development and then driving its way to the north. A lot of these scoot along the coast and even out to sea because this time of the year we get the cold fronts coming on in from the north and they drop south and they create kind of a barrier stopping storms from moving inland. Doesn't happen all the time, but it's much more likely to have these fronts this time of the year than it is in the middle of the summertime. All right, until next time, that's the latest there in the tropics. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.